Hey, Howard here at 82 Maple, and it's another glorious day. And within a couple of weeks, Coral and I are embarking on a 12,000 kilometer road trip. That would be about 7,500 miles, and we're just wanting to make sure that everything stays glued together on Black Beauty there. She's going to be fully loaded up, and hey, we've got a couple of issues, so let's talk about them. Well, speaking of keeping the wheels on this thing, yep, we threw some brand new tires on, and it's been 3.5 years since we put the last deck of rubber on it, and threw a little polish, cleaned up the pitting on the aluminum wheels, and painted the hub centers black just to make that aluminum pop a little bit more, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're gonna jump under the hood. So up under here, we've got the little MAP sensor, and I just, for expediency, extracted the 7mm bolt that holds that on. And if you're wondering what that does, you know what, on a Ford diesel, it's the manifold absolute pressure sensor that we're talking about here. And it measures the pressure inside the intake manifold. The pressure is, the measurement is crucial for the engine control module to calculate the correct air-fuel ratio and ignition timing. And you know what? If that little MAP sensor fails, well, bad stuff starts to happen. Namely, a variety of engine performance problems such as misfiring, running rough, and stalling. It can also turn on the check engine light, and you know what? We're running some remote stretches of road, and I don't want to be sitting beside the road 200 miles from nowhere. So, what's the issue? Well, with time, this little sensor here develops, well, it just plugs up. I'm just going to try and get a decent angle on that. Yeah, that's what this one looks like. And let me just show you what it should be looking like by comparison. So, see if I can bring this into focus. Yeah, there's a difference between those two. So that should be easy. I found a part, and it said original equipment manufacturer. It was on one of our favorite buy online sites for the princely sum of $137.50 Canadian. So, you know what? I am so appreciative for the wealth of information, yeah, and there's some misinformation, on YouTube. But I did a quick look, and one YouTube publisher said, you know what? If this little gem comes in a plastic bag, and the plastic bag doesn't have a hole in it in the lower left corner, it's not Ford original equipment. It's a knockoff, so welcome to whatever happens after that. You know what? I'll throw a link to that video in at the very end of this video on the end screen. Well, not only did the packaging that this came in not have a hole in the lower left corner of the plastic bag, hey, guess what? There was no plastic bag. It came rattling around in this box. Yep, a box filled with nothing but air. So, all I got was the hole. I didn't get the plastic bag, completely unpackaged. Well, where to from here? I don't want some cheap knockoff parking me beside the highway somewhere in Saskatchewan. Yep, that's a place. But yet, oh man, very convincing. Look at that. And then it says here, made in Japan. Well, maybe Ford does outsource to Japan. I don't know, and I'm not going to do a deep dive on that. But my next call after opening up the package was to my friends at my favorite Ford dealership. And I said, do you have any of these give description, in stock. And they said, yeah, we probably do. And I said, well, before you go running to check that out, how about you give me the price? And they said, they took a moment, and the very helpful parts person said, that would be $350. Well, how interesting. You know, I just don't think that Ford is in the habit of dumping parts on deep discount with an online retailer. I don't know, you might have a different view on that. So from $350 Canadian down to $137 Canadian, yeah, that's give or take a 70% discount in my quick math, and something just starts to smell. So I just love a knowledgeable parts person. So I'm talking to this fellow and I said, like, what are the signs of these things going? Hey, let me give you a little context. Up until I was 22 years old, I could just about repair anything on a car. I did my own front end alignments. I rebuilt a couple of engines, swapped a couple of transmissions out. Hey, those were typical things in the town where I grew up. And but my knowledge base on that stuff is now 50 years out of date. So I'm starting from ground zero, but hey, you know what? There's a couple of currencies. One is time, one is money. And, you know, I've got the time now, and I love the sheer enjoyment that is derived from jumping under the hood on something and figuring stuff out. And YouTube and other resources make that so amazing. So now I'm curious. And back to the conversation with the guy behind the parts counter at the Ford dealership. And he says, we don't sell a lot of those. Oh, well, this is interesting. Now you got me curious. And he said, yeah, you can go to retailer A, retailer B, retailer C. He rhymes some off. And they have a little aerosol spray can, and you just take and apply that. And there you go. And don't go trying to stick a paper clip in there or something and try and clean it out. You'll do more than harm than good. Just use the spray as suggested, and you're going to be off and running. And so, no, we don't sell a lot of those modules. In fact, I can't remember the last time. Oh, very, very interesting. So there you have it. My little journey with the MAP sensor. And it's not over yet. I've got to run to town, and stay tuned, more to come. Well, here we are. The trip to town was a success, and we're back at it on this amazing manifold absolute pressure system that we're working on. Well, just working on replacing the sensor. And there you see it. No surprises here. I went in to talk to my friendly auto parts store. They have a super knowledgeable guy there behind the counter. Asked him about the spray in terms of cleaning out the gunk that was plugging up the sensor port, and he was quite willing to sell that to me. But fortunately, I had the curiosity to ask him, like, what would you suggest in an ideal solution where you're going to take a cross-country trip, 12,000 kilometers, 7,500 miles return, and want reliability? And he said, well, let me just look this up here and see what we can find. Now, I related my story of what I believe to be a cheap knockoff of the part I was looking for, and I just don't think it's a great way to start a trip or a relationship by having a what appeared to be a knockoff part inside of a plagiarized is not the right word, copied Ford box, and that just didn't seem like an ideal start to me. So what I learned from, again, gotta love a knowledgeable parts person, is that a company by the name of Alliant, Power Systems or something, and Borg Warner, yes, that Borg Warner from that I recall from my teenage years, the Ford-O-Matic transmission, clutches, driveline components like universal joints, and I believe carburetors. Actually, between those two companies, Alliant and Borg Warner, they manufacture these little gems for Ford. And so it's not apparently Ford in-house manufactured, at least in many cases. It's a Borg Warner part. And I said, well, how much is it? My friendly Ford dealer wanted 350 Canadian, and I'd be interested in you at least checking it out. So he did. And $139, the princely sum of $2 more than the online purported knockoff purchase. And so it took a few hours to come in. I picked it up this morning, and we're back at it. So that was one of my learnings. Hey, like I often repeat, it's a great day if you can learn something new that's useful to the journey going forward. And what else did I learn here? Well, probably going back to some grade school principles, like do your homework would be number one. Number two, ask for help. Be curious enough and humble enough to ask somebody else for help. And there's got to be a number three in here. You know what? If there's a number three, it's that I love getting old. I'm journeying through what is probably the last 1,000 weeks of my highly productive years, at least, or somewhat productive years as we get close to the end of that 1,000 weeks. And it's like a return to my childhood. I get to play with interesting toys. Got more than my fair share of wrenches and other tools kicking around. And I get to play with interesting people and converse with them and learn interesting things. So there you have it.
Too much fun!
And next, I think I'm going to tackle this air intake here. These things have a bad habit of collapsing, and there's going to be some heat on this journey. We're going through the Rocky Mountains, etc. And so I got a steel pipe steel component that replaces most of the rubber here, and we'll tackle that next. Thanks for being part of the journey. And again, if you would have handled this a little different in another fashion, and I'll try and have had the foresight here to throw a photo in of comparing the new component with the old, more plugged up one. I'd love to hear your comments below. What would you have done more, better, different? There you have it. Thanks again for being part of the journey.